So there's extensive conflict over gifts. And nowhere is this conflict better exemplified than in the crickets. So, let's start along a long story here. So, the first step in the story with crickets is that we thought initially that this must be, the spermatophore and the spermatophylax attached to it must be nutrition for the female. And those early papers by Gwynn were very kind of persuasive. But there became a few cracks in the story when this paper here came along and said, well, okay, well, if your nuptial gift is nutritious, and the male is investing a lot of effort to make nutrition, then if he's interested in providing for his offspring, or providing the female with nutrition, this should be full of rich, nutritious proteins, right? Surely it should be a hearty meal for the female. Well, instead, they chemically analysed the composition of this nuptial gift. Here's the cricket they did it in. And they found instead that it was full of like the protein equivalent of bubble gum or popcorn, like nutritionally worthless, the cheapest proteins you can possibly make. Right, so that doesn't really stack up with this being a nutritious gift. Not only that, but it's full of popcorn or candy, but at the same time it's stuffed full of these things called phagostimulants, which are things which elicit feeding in the female. So things which make something smell and taste like you want to eat it, but in fact is nutritionally worthless. So why would they want to do that if the idea is to give nutrition to the female? The paper is called the candy maker hypothesis, which is slightly dodgy, but anyway. And then in a paper that I was involved in, we looked at ideas about the function of this nuptial gift across the evolutionary tree of bush crickets. And the idea is that, so hang on, going back a bit here, if these guys figured that if the idea is, if males are really giving worthless gifts, what it could be, one possible hypothesis for the function of this gift, if it's not going to be nutrition, it might be that the gift is a delay tactic. So remember that they give a spermatophore and then a gift attached to it, which the female eats. So the sperm has to take a bit of time to drain into the female, and in a lot of crickets, the females want to exert choice over males, and if they've got a male they don't want, they can just turn around and remove the spermatophore before the sperm is drained in. They can exercise choice after mating, something we'll put beans on because we're coming back to it later. But the female can rub off that spermatophore or can eat it or do whatever she wants with it after it's transferred. So this spermatophylax might be a delay tactic, something the female has to eat through before she can remove the spermatophore. And if that's the case, then you'd expect it to be as cheap as possible and as tough and chewy to eat as possible, something which is the case with these cheap proteins, and something which takes the female as long as possible to get through before she can get rid of that spermatophore. So that's what these guys hypothesized, and we went and tested that hypothesis by looking across the evolutionary tree of there are a few cases across the evolutionary tree where that nuptial gift, the spermatophylax, has been lost over evolutionary time. So most of the species have it to some greater or lesser extent. Some are enormous and some are small. But in some cases it's been entirely lost. So we made the hypothesis that if it's a delay tactic, you would expect those gifts to be replaced in evolutionary time by some other way of delaying the female from removing the spermatophore, like aggressive mate guarding or some other way, some other strategy by males to prevent the females from removing their sperm. And we found that that was exactly the case. So wherever, like in basically every single case where that nuptial gift has been lost, we found that males had evolved these. So this is a Myconema pair mating with the male here and the female there, and the male has basically got these little tentacles on the back of his abdomen that he's basically tied around the female. And instead of giving a nuptial gift, he's basically using himself as a device to stop the female eating the spermatophore, because he's prolonging mating. They have much, 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 much longer matings after the sperm has been transferred than they otherwise need to have. And the male basically sits there and hangs on for dear life. The female tries to remove him, jiggles around and kicks and kind of walks around all over the place. But the male's cerci, the male's tentacles, wrap around the female and kind of anchor him to her. And for all the world, like, basically like a tactic to stop the female from removing that spermatophore. And that happens like on multiple evolutionary occasions. There is one that there are male bush crickets with cerci that look a bit like bear traps, which kind of clasp the female. There are males with cerci that have spikes on them that kind of grab the female and pierce her cuticle to keep him in place while mating. And there's another one with interlocking cerci that look for all the world like a pair of handcuffs. It's really, really strange. And if you want to know more about that story, I gave a TEDx talk about it, which I've given the link to on the bottom. But there's the link to the paper. It's about Head et al.